Bye-bye, Ben Affleck. The new Daredevil's on Netflix, and his name is Charlie Cox. Netflix Daredevil Season 1, created by Drew Goddard from Marvel, starring Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. Now, the Daredevil series is part of a plan to create a Defenders Netflix series eventually. There's going to be 4 superheroes part of this team. You got Daredevil, who's going to be played by Charlie Cox, Jessica Jones, who is being played by Kristen Ritter. We've already had the Jessica Jones series. We're going to get a Luke Cage series with the character being played by Michael Coulter, and he has already been introduced on the Jessica Jones series. And finally, we're going to get an Iron Fist series. The Iron Fist actor has been casted. It's some guy from Game of Thrones. I don't know the actor's name yet, but I will put it up on the screen right next to his picture. So they have shown his picture on the internet already. I've forgotten his name. So they've casted all 4 members of the Defenders team. And eventually, after each of these heroes are introduced, they're going to bring them together to make a Defenders Netflix series, which is awesome. I can't wait to see it. And I've already seen Daredevil Season 1 and Season 2. I've seen Jessica Jones Season 1, and I can't wait for the rest of the shows. Now, I was wondering, what should I review as a countdown to Captain America Civil War? Because I've already done a countdown for Batman v Superman. I want to do the same thing for Captain America Civil War. I know I don't have much time because that comes out in May, and this is right now pretty much mid-April. I'll try to get this done as soon as possible before the movie comes out, or I'll get the last 2 reviews done after the movie comes out, after I do my review for Captain America Civil War. Well, let's start up with Daredevil Season 1, which is awesome. I loved it. Charlie Cox is fantastic as Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. This show does a great job of reestablishing the origins of Daredevil, which is when Matt Murdock was a child. He got chemicals into his eyes, which blinded him, and at the same time gave him super sensitive hearing, super sensitive touch, and everything else. All his other 4 senses compensated. When Matt Murdock was young, his father was a boxer and did a lot of fights. Sometimes he won, sometimes he lost some in order to help a gangster get rich. His last fight, he is told by this gangster to throw the fight or help the gangster get rich out of gambling on him. But the boxer, who calls himself the Devil in the ring, Matt Murdock's father, decides to win the fight instead because his son believes in him and everything. This causes the gangster to kill Mr. Murdock and makes Matt Murdock decide to become Daredevil, using his abilities to fight crime and to prevent more tragedies like the tragedy that happened in his own life from happening ever again. And another blind man by the name of Stick, who in this series is played by Scott Glenn, teaches him how to use these hyper senses to fight. And that's how he becomes Daredevil. As we know, Matt Murdock also decides to become a lawyer by day, the Daredevil by night. He has a law partner named Foggy Nelson, played by Eldon Henson, who, as a child actor, he was on the movie Mighty Ducks as Fulton. And he's also been on the Hunger Games franchise. He was the mute character with the beard. And he's a terrific actor, and he does a great job playing the Foggy character. Charlie Cox and Eldon have terrific friendship chemistry. They're great together. Daredevil does end up rescuing somebody within the series named Karen Page, played by Deborah Ann Wall, who ends up becoming the Nelson Murdoch's secretary. She's great. I really did like her. In the first season, she becomes Foggy's love interest throughout the series, and they were very good together. I really did like their chemistry, which kind of makes me a little bit mad about what happens in season 2, which I'll talk about later when I get to season 2. But Foggy and Karen are great together. They have very good chemistry. There is a reporter that does all the reporting about Daredevil, Ben Urich, who in this series is played by Vondi Curtis Hall, and he's great. I really did like him. And also, of course, what would Daredevil be without the villain? Wilson Fisk, played by Vincent D'Onofrio. If you don't know who Vincent D'Onofrio is, and if you've ever seen the movie Men in Black, he was the villain in that movie, Edgar. Vincent D'Onofrio is fantastic. He's much better than Michael Clarke Duncan, who was the best thing about the Daredevil movie. Michael Clarke Duncan was the only good thing about the Daredevil movie, him playing Kingpin. So when I found out that Vincent D'Onofrio was playing Kingpin, awesome, even better than Michael Clarke Duncan. He's more sinister. His version of Kingpin is very much kind of like Kaiser Soze from The Usual Suspects character. If you get my meaning. And I really did like the fights that Daredevil would get in with Kingpin. And when Kingpin's introduced, it's so awesome. And surprisingly, Kingpin gets his own love interest in this series, Vanessa. Vanessa, played by Aya. I can't say that name. I'll just put it up on the screen here. But it's really cool that the woman that Wilson Fisk ends up with is just as much of a sociopath as he is. So that was very interesting and created some very good dark chemistry between them. Kingpin has his own sidekick that is similar to Daredevil's friendship with Foggy. Leland Osley, who in this series is played by Bob Gunton, and he's great in here. I really did like him. One of the crime kings that works underneath Wilson Fisk is Madame Gao. She controls, I think it's the Yakuza crime gang, and she's played by Wai Ching Hao. And finally, the last cast member I want to talk about is Rosario Dawson's character, Claire Temple, who in the comic book is known as Night Nurse. She's the one that ends up treating Matt Murdock for all the wounds that he gets from fighting the bad guys. And she's great in the series. It did give the idea that Matt Murdock and Claire were going to have a romance, but if you want to find out if that does happen, you have to watch the series. And the implied chemistry between them is pretty good. Whether or not they are friends or whether they do end up romantic, you have to find out by watching the series. And this series is awesome. I know the prototype costume that you see is pretty much a black uniform. It looks very cheesy and not all that great, but I did like it at first. It took me a little while to get used to it and to get into his prototype costume. And once you see the real Daredevil costume near the end, it looks awesome. I know some people didn't like the Daredevil costume once they showed it, but I liked it. I really did. Thought it looked great, and Charlie Cox is fantastic as the character. All the other actors are great, and the action scenes are really good. This series really uses the tone of dark and grittiness even better than the Dark Knight trilogy used the dark and gritty tone, and very much better than the Arrow series uses it on the CW. So if there's any reason to check out Netflix, it's definitely because of the Marvel Netflix universe. It's one of the reasons why I got Netflix. So get Netflix on your television through your Blu-ray player, be hooked up to the internet, or download the app onto your iPad or something, which is how I watch it. and check out Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Daredevil Season 2. And my rating for this is going to be an A+ for the first season. Definitely check the first season out.